Building on architecture principles, standards, patterns, and exception processes, you now need the engine that makes those guardrails visible in day-to-day decisions. Architecture governance is how you ensure the enterprise stays coherent while multiple programs move at speed. When you run governance well, you reduce rework, prevent risk from hiding in delivery, and create executive confidence that architecture is being managed rather than improvised. With that purpose clear, you should treat governance as decision-making discipline, not committee theater. Architecture governance exists to create clear, repeatable decisions about design choices, trade-offs, risks, and alignment to enterprise direction. It is not about policing teams. It is about ensuring the organization can scale change without drifting into fragmentation, inconsistent controls, and escalating cost. With governance defined, you can now understand why most organizations use two related forums. An architecture review board is typically focused on enterprise alignment, cross-domain impacts, risk posture, and exceptions to standards. A design authority is typically closer to delivery, ensuring designs are consistent, patterns are reused, and delivery decisions remain aligned to the agreed architecture direction. When these forums are designed well, they reduce confusion by clarifying who decides what and when. Now that you know the forums, you need a success test that keeps governance healthy. If governance slows delivery without reducing risk, teams will avoid it. If governance speeds delivery by removing ambiguity and catching issues early, teams will pull it into their process willingly. You design governance so it becomes a value add, not a gate that people fear. With the success test in mind, you now design decision rights because unclear decision rights create chaos. You clarify which decisions are made by delivery teams, which decisions require review, which decisions require formal approval, and which decisions must be escalated to leadership. You also clarify how exceptions are handled, how residual risk is accepted, and who has the authority to make those calls. When decision rights are clear, governance becomes faster because debates become structured. With decision rights established, you now define what content should actually come to review forums. The focus is on decisions and risks, not on long documentation. You bring items such as alignment to target state, compliance with standards, cross-domain impacts, integration dependencies, data protection posture, operational supportability, and any exceptions requested. You also bring the trade-offs that need leadership visibility, such as cost versus resilience or delivery speed versus control. This keeps meetings productive and stops them from becoming updates that could have been an email. With inputs clear, you now ensure governance runs efficiently through a strong pre-read culture. You set the expectation that proposals are reviewed before the forum, so the meeting time is used for decisions, not for first-time discovery. You also provide a consistent structure for submissions, so reviewers know exactly where to look for risk, dependencies, assumptions, and requested decisions. This is how you make governance feel professional and time-respectful for senior people. With pre-read discipline in place, you now focus on the meeting itself because your facilitation style determines whether governance is respected. You keep the discussion anchored on the decision being requested, the options available, the trade-offs, and the risk implications. You prevent the forum from turning into design by committee by ensuring the right people contribute and the conversation stays at the correct level. You also maintain psychological safety because teams must be able to surface issues early without fear. Otherwise, risk will be hidden until late. With the meeting flow clear, you now ensure each session produces a clear outcome. You approve when the design aligns to principles and standards with risks understood and managed. You approve with conditions when the direction is acceptable, but specific actions must be completed before moving forward, such as closing a security gap, clarifying ownership, or improving operational readiness. You defer when information is missing and a decision would be irresponsible. You reject when the design conflicts with enterprise direction or introduces unacceptable risk without a defensible mitigation path. With outcomes decided, you now capture the most valuable deliverable of governance: a decision record. A decision record states what was decided, why it was decided, what trade-offs were accepted, what risks remain, who owns follow-up actions, and when the decision should be revisited. Without decision records, governance becomes memory-based and political, and teams will relitigate the same issues repeatedly. With decision records, the organization builds institutional clarity. With decision records in place, you now handle exceptions and residual risk in a mature way. When teams cannot meet a standard, governance provides the pathway to document why, what compensating controls exist, what residual risk remains, and who formally accepts that risk. This stops hidden risk from building up quietly and ensures leadership is never surprised during an incident or an audit. It also protects delivery teams by giving them a legitimate route to progress when constraints are real. With exceptions managed, you now ensure governance supports delivery across phases. Early reviews focus on direction, alignment, and feasibility. Later reviews focus on operational readiness, security readiness, and whether conditions were satisfied. This is how governance becomes a continuous assurance function rather than a one-off approval that teams forget after the meeting. It also reduces rework because issues are caught early, not discovered during implementation. With lifecycle governance in mind, you now avoid the biggest reason governance gets hated: over-governance. Not every change requires the same level of review. A low-risk change should have a lightweight pathway, while high-risk or high-impact change should receive deeper scrutiny. You align review intensity to business criticality, data sensitivity, exposure, and operational impact. When review is proportional, teams stop seeing governance as friction and start seeing it as protection. With governance mechanics clear, you can now ground this in a realistic example. Imagine a program proposes a new customer services platform that must integrate with billing, identity, analytics, and communications. The proposal also involves sensitive customer data and high availability expectations. In an architecture review board, you focus on enterprise alignment, target state direction, security posture, data protection, integration dependencies, and operational support model. You identify that the program needs a clear identity approach, consistent logging, and confirmed ownership for cross-team interfaces. In a design authority, you ensure reusable integration patterns are applied, operational monitoring is designed in, and exception requests are documented where legacy constraints exist. The outcome is approval with conditions, and those conditions become tracked actions, not forgotten promises. With the example in mind, you now recognize that governance is as much culture as it is process. If governance feels adversarial, teams will hide risk, bypass standards, and treat architecture as a blocker. If governance feels supportive, teams will bring issues early, accept guidance, and improve design quality. You build trust through transparency, consistency, fast feedback, and respect for delivery realities. Let's now discuss the key takeaways from what you learned so far, so you can run architecture review boards and design authorities that teams respect and executives trust. Architecture governance is decision-making discipline that ensures enterprise coherence, reduces risk, and prevents fragmentation across programs and portfolios. Architecture review boards focus on enterprise alignment, cross-domain impacts, standards compliance, and controlled exceptions, while design authorities drive delivery consistency and reusable patterns. Governance succeeds when it speeds delivery by removing ambiguity and catching issues early, not when it becomes committee theatre. Clear decision rights, disciplined pre-reads, structured meetings, and decision records are what make governance credible and repeatable. A mature governance process handles exceptions and residual risk transparently, with accountable acceptance pathways that protect both leadership and delivery teams. Right-sized governance and a trust-based culture ensure teams engage early, risks are surfaced, and outcomes remain aligned to target state direction. As you move into the next lecture, start viewing governance as the way you scale good architecture decisions without becoming a bottleneck. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next videos in this playlist. Like this video so it reaches more leaders and architects who want governance that accelerates delivery and reduces risk. Comment with the biggest governance challenge you face in your organization. Whether it is slow approvals, unclear decision rights, too many exceptions, or teams bypassing forums. Share this video with someone who runs design forums or architecture review boards, because the right governance approach can save the organization years of rework and millions in avoidable cost.